moving on to the Bills, your home turf. You were over there again this week. Pete Carmichael, the de facto offensive coordinator. I mean,
Right.
it's Brady's offense. He spoke, and that was more of the focus this week. And there were a lot of interesting themes on the defensive side, right? Because were so many unknowns with Jim Leonard, both in terms of his approach, the roles that some of the new additions, that what he envisions for them, and really interesting, I thought, and we've talked about this at great length here. We did it on Sports Talk by Buffalo. I know you wrote about it as well. Some of the players they have, right, how they're going to convert. And we spent a lot of time there. Offense, there aren't as many questions. Receiver obviously is. Offensive line, there are a tight end. There's some areas, but it wasn't. There wasn't the depth of information, I guess, that came out of that session and this week as compared to what it was on the defensive side with Leonard. Fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, look, Leonard's the new shiny toy in the building, right? They're changing the defense. It's going to be the scheme he wants to run, and there's a lot of questions about the holdover players, how they're going to fit into it, and now these new guys that they brought in via free agency in the draft, where are their roles going to be? So that to me has been far more interesting than anything that's happened on the offensive side. The only thing, like you said, there's going to be a battle at left guard between. We think Alec Anderson and Austin Corbett. Okay, that's fine. Figure that out. And then you're going to pick who your receivers are going to be. They got a bunch of guys in there. There's probably only going to be room for, I would think, 6 on the active roster. So there are some decisions to make. But other than that, what else are we talking about on the offense? Nothing. Josh Allen's healthy. One of the things that came up, I asked Carmichael, boy, the only thing I asked him about was Kincaid. How important do you envision this guy being? Because he's been here 3 years, and all we can really say about Dalton Kincaid's tenure in Buffalo is that it's been underwhelming because of injury. Kid can play. We know the kid can play. When he's been healthy, he has been able to be, I don't think he's quite lived up to being a first-round pick, a guy the Bills traded up to get in the first round. But again, a lot of that's due to the injury situation. Well, now he appears to be fully healthy. He spoke about it, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Kincaid talked to a few reporters, and he said, this is the best I've felt at this time of the year in a long time. So I asked Carmichael what he has seen, and he said, yeah, the kid looks really good. He's moving around well. Obviously Carmichael spent time before OTAs began watching film and seeing what Kincaid can mean to the offense. And he said, this kid is a guy that we have got to lean on because he's got that type of talent. Last year, Adam, Bean pointed this out too. They were a better offense when Kincaid, it was a touchdown better, in fact, per game scoring when Kincaid played as opposed to the games he missed. And that was with, don't forget, in many of those games, he was totally limited on snap count. So when he was out there, he caught, I think it was 39 passes, 27 of them converted first downs, and he averaged 14.6 per catch. You realize his first 2 years, he averaged 9.2 and 10.2. So his impact was greater when he played and they could get the ball to him. So if that's going to be the player that Kincaid's going to be, and it's not going to be 38% of the snaps, which it was last year, and you kick that up to, 55 or 60%, that's an area where the Bills offense can definitely improve.
Anything else Carmichael had to say with regard to the offense that stood out to you? Maybe the receiver position, DJ Moore. I'm interested in hearing about that. And also maybe on his role in terms of specifics. I mean, we know what he's going to, we know it's Brady's offense. He's going to be down in the field. Carmichael would be the eyes in the sky.
Yeah. Well, he didn't even confirm that he said they're going to make that decision probably in training camp, maybe after a preseason game or two, whether he's going to be upstairs or on the field. Now, my guess, I've always said that the offensive play caller, well, defensive player caller too, you should be in the press box. I mean, you've got guys on the field who can handle the one-on-one communication through the headset. You just get such a better view upstairs of what's going on. So I would think that Carmichael should be upstairs, and then, he can be in communication with Brady, pointing things out. He said they'll make that decision at a later date, but that's, I think, what will happen. Look, Carmichael's role is going to be the same as it's been during his 20 years plus with Sean Payton. He's going to be a sounding board for Joe Brady. He'll have ideas. Joe will decide whether he wants to use them or not. He'll be key in evaluating players and what they're doing on the field, all that stuff. But he's not going to be the play caller. He never has been. He's never going to be. But it's a good guy to have. He's a veteran coach, a really good guy for Brady to lean on, as is John Fox. I mean, I think bringing in John Fox was a really good move with Brandon Beane's input. I mean, I think Brandon Beane sort of suggested you might want to do this. I think Fox is going to help in many areas for Joe Brady in his first year as head coach.
Let's talk about the trades this week before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
And the one that we kind of knew was coming, A.J. Brown of the Patriots.
Yep.
And you and I had talked about New England, obviously, as anyone who covers the Buffalo Bills did during the course of the season, and how they had turned things around and how much more dangerous they would be with Brown in the lineup. So it's sort of a Brown for Diggs type trade-off for them internally within that offense. But Brown has presented problems historically for the Buffalo Bills, as he has for other teams. I mean, this is if you're Jim Leonard, Brown being on the field changes the equation when you prepare to face the New England Patriots.
Absolutely. He when he is right, he's one of the best receivers in the league. He's a physical, dominating type of guy. He'll give, guys like Max Hairston and these undersized cornerbacks, he will give them problems. It was not great. We knew it was happening, but it's not a good thing for the Bills that A.J. Brown is now in the division. And Drake May also has Romeo Doubs, who they signed as a free agent. They have significantly upgraded their passing game. And let's face it, May was pretty good last year with a pretty mediocre group of guys. Diggs played pretty well for them, but otherwise they had a pretty mediocre group of receivers. Well, that has upgraded significantly. So yeah, I understand that, I'm sure FanDuel might still, although it could have changed, I think they still have the Bills as the favorite to win the division, but I'm not quite sure why people are all of a sudden, writing off the Patriots. They only got better. They got better on offense. They're probably a little bit better on defense. They just went to the Super Bowl. I don't know why we're writing off the Patriots and handing the division to the Bills. I just don't see it. I think it's going to be a great race in that division, and I'm not going to be surprised at all if New England winds up on top.
I'm looking it up right now since we're discussing the sponsor, FanDuel, presenting sponsor for this show and others on the Believe network of podcasts. Buffalo Bills still the favorite to win the division at minus 125. New England second at plus 125. Yeah, Jets third at plus 2,000, and Miami obviously fourth. So the Bills still do remain the favorites, as you had speculated. What's your take on where things stand with Diggs now at this point in his career?
Yeah, I think some team might sign him maybe when training camp gets going and they have an injury. I mean, look, he was not a bad player for them last year. We saw it against the Bills. He had a great game against the Bills. I think he can still play. He can probably still help a team. You sign up for the baggage with Diggs. And really, Adam, he seems to be getting weirder as the years go on. I mean, this whole thing, I don't know how many kids he has with how many different women, the whole thing with what's her name, Cardi B and all that nonsense. I mean, you're signing up for a lot when you bring in Diggs, but the one undeniable fact is that he is a good player. And if you get him in the right situation and you can keep him focused, he can help a team. So I will not be surprised if someone takes a swing. There was a little speculation about, I saw somebody on Twitter or something. Yeah. What about, Gardner Johnson tweeted it. Why not Diggs? No, I don't see that happening in Buffalo. I think you've moved on from Diggs here, and you really don't need him. You've got a wide receiver room that right now is pretty crowded. Maybe Diggs would be a number 3 type guy here in Buffalo. We'll see, but no, I wouldn't do that if I'm the Bills.
No, I wouldn't. And you've got a guy. I mean, you've got sort of your established 3, right? And I think Skylar Bell's an interesting story
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I want to project too much on him. I mean, I've watched him here in the drills that we've been able to see. He's dropped several passes. I think he's going to be a work in progress, Adam. I don't, with the veteran guys they have in that room already, and Keon Coleman, again, Mr. Enigma. We don't know what we're going to get there with him, but if Keon can get his shit together, he can help the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's your number 4, assuming Josh Palmer stays healthy as number 3, I think it's going to be hard for Skylar Bell to get on the field much this season, especially since he really wasn't a special teams player in college. And he's going to have to do that in Buffalo as the 4 or 5 receiver. So I'm not sure I'm going to expect too much from him. I'll be pleasantly surprised if he produces for them this season. But right now I'm kind of tapping the brakes on him.
Okay, and the last, and this is an interesting example, right? The Rams and Les Snead, that GM, and the whole F the picks and all that approach. Look what he was able to accomplish, kind of going all in. And yeah, there was a short-term drop-off, but now they're right back. And obviously they're dealing with the Seattle Seahawks and trying to overcome them. But boy, when you make a move like that and add Myles Garrett, and they gave up a lot to get him, but I guess the point is he's in a window, and he knows he's in a window. They were smart with Stafford and bringing him back with the structure of that contract, and it's basically saying we are all in to win the Super Bowl because we're in there. We're in the window now, which is different than what Brandon Beane and the Bills have done during the course of Josh Allen's career, and that's the thing. That's sort of the rub. That's the point that gets a lot of fans fired up. Where do you sit on what side of that argument?
Yeah. I mean, you wonder, was Brandon Beane involved in discussions? I mean, clearly Cleveland's been lying through their teeth, right? I mean, they kept saying, we're not trading him. We're not trading him. Of course they were going to trade him. If the right deal came around, they know they're not going anywhere for a couple of years. Myles Garrett could bring back a massive package, and he did.
He did.
First-round draft pick. I mean, Jared Verse is a great player, and he's younger. I mean, you've got him signed for 2 years at almost nothing, while you're potentially trying to build something there in Cleveland. It was a great move. So they were trading him all along. I just wonder if Beane was involved. I mean, they gave up Jared Verse. Why not give up Greg Rousseau? I mean, Rousseau makes more money than Verse. That's just probably why maybe that wouldn't have happened. But I don't know. You would think the Bills could have made some type of offer. I understand their salary cap situation. It's always difficult, but I would have liked to have known. And if I could get Beane in the corner off the record, maybe I will ask him, were you involved? But it just doesn't seem to be the kind of move the Bills have made. Yeah, they took the swing on Von Miller as a free agent. That didn't work out. They've had a couple other swings that didn't work out. But in terms of a trade, really, all they have to look at is the Diggs trade. That's been the one trade that he really took a big swing on. Unless I'm forgetting one along the way, and maybe I have. But, yeah.
No, I mean, Diggs is the best example of it, right?
That's the best example, for sure. But Garrett to the Rams, yeah, they're, to me, the Super Bowl, the leading Super Bowl contender now, because that's a really, really good team on top of before they even brought in Myles Garrett.
Who the Bills play in Week 5 in L.A., by the way.
Yeah.
What about the philosophy, though, relative to, I mean, you have Josh Allen, obviously, and Beane has openly said he's trying to manage the cap to keep that window open to give them a chance. And I understand that philosophy. We all do. Snead is more aggressive about it.
He is.
Right?
There's no doubt. Snead and Howie Roseman, those two guys, you look at them as and look what's happened. The Rams won a Super Bowl. The Eagles have won one, I think, at least. They've won one, been in two maybe in the last few years. I forget. Look, what have we said about this Bills roster for several years now? It lacks star power. They have arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. And what else do they have? They have a really good running back. Okay, that's fine. What else do they truly have? There is no star player on defense. Not even, well, there's no one really close to Myles Garrett anywhere in the league, but there's nobody remotely close on that side of the ball that you would consider a superstar. That's been the one thing that maybe has held the Bills back is their lack of star power. They've got a lot of good players, and they have the great quarterback, but they don't have that star power. That might be what's held them back.
So, and I'm not one that feels like they're wasting Josh Allen's prime years.
No, they're not.
I'm not going to make that argument. They're not wasting anything. They've been a very, very good team. I mean, that's overstating it. But it's worth comparing the philosophies. And as Allen continues to age here, it does make me wonder, at what point do you throw all the chips on the table, go all in, and try and get it done before Allen? We're not there yet, obviously, but before Allen's age naturally starts to taper his skill set.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, look, they're moving into a new stadium this year, and you want that team to be good, competitive, playoff bound, especially in these first few years of the stadium. I mean, I say that. I think Bills fans are always going to show up. Even if the team goes into the tank for a couple of years, they're still going to be there. But yeah, you want to keep this ball rolling, and hopefully it ends in a Super Bowl championship. But you're right. At some point, look what the Rams did in 21. They took the swing on Von Miller. He helped them get to the Super Bowl and win it. Myles Garrett is the same situation, probably a better player than Von Miller was in 2021. Yeah, you kind of wish that Bean had one of those moves in him. Maybe something will happen at the trade deadline, Adam. I don't know, but yeah, it would be nice if the Bills got into those conversations a little more often.
All right. First things first, the offseason program continues, OTAs, and then the mandatory minicamp later this month here, now that we're in June, and training camp set to open in late July. So we'll continue with Believe in Bills, Believe in Sabres here on the Believe Network of podcasts, both of these shows presented by FanDuel. Sal, good to roll with you as always, man.
You too, my friend. We'll talk, I guess, next week at some point. They got 3 days of I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for the mini camp. And then we get a nice little 5 or 6 week break, Adam. I'm going to be taking some time off, so the Bills will be the furthest thing from my mind. But I will keep fresh so we can do these shows. Free agency for the NHL will be kicking in right around the time I'm lounging on my deck. So I'll be ready to go whenever you need me.
A lot to get to. I mean, we're going to keep these shows rolling through the course of the offseason, both with the Bills and Sabres, both competitive and very interesting storylines. So, Sal Majorana, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. I'm Adam Benini, WGRZ TV, Sports Talk Live Buffalo. Thanks for being with us here on Believe in Bills and Sabres, presented by FanDuel.